From the moment Grace Carter stepped into the cozy oak and brick Italian restaurant on the corner of Willow Avenue in Portland, Oregon, she felt every eye in the room turn toward her. Not because she looked extraordinary in her thrifted navy blue dress, or because her hair, pinned back shakily, framed her face like a watercolor painting, but because she wasn't alone. Wrapped around her leg like a frightened shadow was her 6-year-old daughter Mia, clutching a worn stuffed fox with one button eye. Grace's heartbeat thudded in her ears as she scanned the crowd for the man she was supposed to meet. It was a blind date arranged by her coworker, a well-meaning attempt to help her start living again. But as she looked down at Mia's small, trembling form, Grace wondered if the world would ever let her do that. She was a single mom, abandoned without warning 2 years ago, left to stitch her life together piece by piece. And now here she was, on a blind date, terrified that even before she said a single word, she'd already ruined everything. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of good people still existing, please like, comment, share, and subscribe right now. It truly helps more people see stories like this. Grace spotted him near the window, a man with sandy blonde hair, a gray blazer over a simple shirt, sitting with his hands pressed together like he was trying to calm himself. His name was Nathan Brooks, 36, works in tech, reportedly funny in a quiet, accidental way. Grace prayed her friend had not exaggerated. She took a shaky step. Mia clung harder. When Nathan finally looked up, their eyes met, and for a terrifying moment, Grace braced herself for the familiar flicker of disappointment she had seen on other faces before. But instead, Nathan stood up gently, brows raised not in judgment, but in surprise, maybe curiosity. The waiter appeared like a question mark, holding menus and waiting for instruction. Grace took another step, trying to speak, trying to explain, to apologize, but the words tangled in her throat. She felt unsteady, bracing for rejection like someone bracing for impact. All her life since becoming a single mother had felt like walking into rooms where she didn't belong. Job interviews where the interviewers frowned at schedule restrictions, parenting groups where couples whispered as she sat alone, grocery store lines where people sighed because Mia cried for cereal she couldn't afford. Tonight, she expected the same. She expected Nathan to say something politely dismissive and leave. Instead, Nathan knelt down, not to her, but to Mia's level, giving the little girl the same height as him in that moment. He didn't say much at all, just smiled with a warmth that felt like golden light breaking through smoke. Mia tightened her grip but peeked from behind Grace's leg, and Nathan's entire posture softened as though he understood without needing explanation. They sat down. Grace rushed through an apology, explaining how babysitting fell through, how she didn't want to cancel last minute, how she hoped this wasn't unfair to him. She felt like a faucet of nervous words, dripping insecurity. Nathan listened without interruption, his gaze steady, his expression thoughtful. She expected him to cut her off, but he didn't. He nodded. Then he asked if Mia wanted to help him pick dinner by circling items on the children's menu. Something shifted in Grace's chest, something gentle and hesitant, like a door that had been locked finally cracking open. For the first time in a long time, she inhaled without her lungs trembling. The restaurant glowed with fairy lights that dangled around the windows, shimmering like stars trapped in warm glass. Families laughed nearby. Forks scraped plates, and the smell of garlic and herbs filled the air. Grace felt aware of every detail, as though the moment was asking her to remember it. Nathan spoke to her, not about himself first, but about her. He asked about her. Work, her hobbies, the book she read at night to quiet her thoughts. Grace hesitated at every answer, afraid of sounding small or unworthy. She worked as a receptionist, took night classes when she could afford them, dreamed of graphic design but had no time to practice. Nathan didn't flinch. He talked about his own career, how it felt hollow sometimes, how he questioned whether success meant anything if no one was there to share it with. An hour passed. Mia grew comfortable enough to color in peace beside them, her stuffed fox safe on the table. Grace felt something unfamiliar, seen. She couldn't remember the last time she felt like more than a burden or a footnote. Yet Nathan did not look at her like a woman with baggage. He looked at her like a human being. And that terrified her. Because what if kindness like his wasn't real? What if she let herself believe and then lost it again? It was when dessert arrived, cannolis dusted with powdered sugar, that the night shifted from cautious warmth to undeniable connection. Mia accidentally knocked over her juice, spilling it across the table. Immediately, the room seemed to shrink. Grace froze, breath caught, shame rising so quickly she could barely swallow. She reached for napkins, apologizing in frantic bursts. Nathan's hand landed softly on hers, steady and sure. He said it was okay. He waved the waiter over without annoyance. He joked that if someone hadn't spilled something by dessert, it wasn't truly dinner. Grace exhaled, almost dizzy with relief. For a moment she feared tears might betray her, but she blinked them back. She wouldn't cry in front of this man. Not tonight. They talked until the restaurant grew quiet. When it was time to leave, Grace tried to insist on splitting the bill, but Nathan gently refused. Not out of obligation, but sincerity. Outside, the night air was cold and crisp, and streetlights stretched long shadows across the sidewalk. Grace bundled Mia into her jacket. Nathan shoved his hands into his pockets, unsure, like he didn't want to assume anything about what came next. There was no sweeping romantic gesture or dramatic ending, nothing cinematic in the traditional sense. But when he asked if he could see her again, when he asked if he could pick a park next time so Mia could be part of the day from the beginning, Grace felt her world tilt, not like falling, like finally finding balance. They didn't hug, they didn't kiss, but something changed as surely as the tide changes with the pull of the moon. Grace walked away with Mia's hand in hers, her steps lighter than when she arrived. She didn't know the future. She didn't know if Nathan would stay, if life would cooperate, if heartbreak lurked around the corner. But for the first time in years, hope didn't hurt. It felt possible. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps more people find stories that remind them the world still has gentle souls in it. Before we end, please comment below. Do you believe people deserve second chances? Grace tucked Mia into bed that night, whispering prayers of gratitude that felt like fragile wings. In the quiet glow of her living room lamp, she finally allowed herself to believe that not every story ends with loss. Some nights, just like this one, begin with fear, stumble through uncertainty, and end with the smallest spark of something that could one day be love. Not guaranteed, not perfect, but real.